Well, how has the journey been this first season on this show? Like how, like from start to finish, has it been what you envisioned? Has it changed a lot along the way?
The journey for the characters, or the journey
for maybe you actually? Yeah.
It has been. I've run seasons of TV before. So in a way, it's sort of I kind of knew what I was getting into, but I think because there are things that are ambitious about the show in terms of like how many scenes we shoot per episode. Every little flashback that Brian has.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of tones in it.
Yes, a lot of
different
tones.
genres.
Yes, exactly. So. I think what I wasn't ready for was how constant the process of sort of like communicating to each new director coming in.
Oh, like what the show,
to each key department head. Yeah, I mean that like the show can be. I think people are accustomed to, okay, well that's a serious show or that's a funny show, and so you have to say like no, look, you can be, like he's gonna stab himself in the leg in this scene, and that's gonna be for comedy, and then it's gonna end on this very serious note where one lead is arresting the other one, and you sort of just have to. It was something that sort of existed in my head, and the the director, the pilot, and I talked about a lot for the pilot. But I have been just sort of surprised at how constantly I have to sort of keep retooling, reorienting everybody who's coming in and going, we do it. It's just a little different here.
Well, now you get a little bit of a break.
Yes.
So, I mean, the panel you're here for is like hit makers, and I thought that was kind of interesting because I think in this day and age with super saturated TV, it's really kind of the definition of what a hit has changed for a show. And I was wondering what your
adjacent makers
exactly. I was wondering what your take was on like how to make a hit / like what does that even mean?
I think. How to set out to make a hit? I don't know. I do think like at the early stages of something, there has to be something that you respond to internally, where you're not thinking in those terms. Not that it's crass to think in those terms, but there has to be that internal spark.
Kind of shoots in your foot. If you start with that as the goal.
So for me, that was just sort of finding the character of Brian. And what makes a hit, I rely on other people to tell me that, because we have, it's an all-consuming enough job, like without that level of analysis. I mean, of course I worry, and of course I worry, and I track how the show is doing, but like analyzing the sort of macro trends and like who left at minute 10 and why, like I find that if you bury yourself too deeply in that, it sort of interferes with just what you're setting out to do. Yeah, exactly.
What was it about Jake McDorman that stood out to you casting him as Brian Finch?
A number of things. So before Jake read for the part, we had to have a meeting just sort of like for coffee to talk about the script. There's a whole kind of elaborate dance that goes on with the wooing of actors during pilot season, and so I didn't know his work that well, and he didn't know my work that well, so it was very much like a blind date. I had seen his tape and knew he was a good actor, but when I sat down across from him, I could sense without even seeing him read the scenes that he had that sincerity that differentiates the character of Brian Finch from the character of Eddie Mora, and that he had a really good sense of humor. And I just got a very good vibe off of that meeting. And then he came in a few days later and read a couple of scenes from the pilot, and it was set up as this very, like, again, it's a very elaborate mating ritual, I mean, only me and Mark Webb were allowed to be in the room, and my phone was buzzing in my pocket as he was reading, like, how's it going, and as soon as he read the material, I was texting the other producers going, we've got our guy, we have him. I mean, for me, he just embodies, it's a character that's sort of close to me because where you meet him, I went through a period like that in my life, and I just instantly responded to what he was doing with the material.
Now, will we meet any other use of NCT other than Ryan?
Yes. At the end of the last episode that we aired, we learned that the character of Sands, who's been kind of Brian's handler on the Eddie Mora side of things all year, has broken off and formed a group of people who have the access to the immunity shot and are able to take NCT. So actually our 2-part season finale is about Brian, for the first time, going up against not just one person who has the same advantage that he has NCT, but a whole other group of people. So we have a 2-part season finale in which Brian has to face down a group of bad guys who are all on the hill.
And one of the most intriguing things about the show is how Brian visualizes problem-solving tactics. How did he come up with the process, and what it was going to look like?
Well, the first thing we did was set a goal, which was that each week, if you tune into Limitless, you'll see at least one thing you've never seen on TV before. That was sort of like our one of our mission statements that we set out. We set out at the beginning of the year. And so that for us, a lot of that, what that has come to mean is finding different approaches to the delivery of information and exposition. So we'll just sit. I'll either sit by myself or sit with our crack writing team and say, what is we need the list of the top 10 most wanted felons on the FBI at the FBI right now. What is the most creative way that Brian and NCT, who gets excited, who gets animated for these projects, could deliver it, and we just develop. In that case, we're like, okay, we'll make a rotating carousel. We'll put clay figurines on there, and then we'll put a camera there, and we'll move it around as he kind of narrates it, like he made his own little movie. And then I drew that. I faxed it off to New York, and I said, hey, that's one example of sort of how we come up with the visual pops of the show.
Have you come up with anything, or have you had an idea or concept? I mean, the show's called Limitless. Have you found a limit in terms of what you can get away with on the show with CBS or anything? Have you had something that you couldn't do?
They've been very supportive of the experimental nature of the show. We do try to keep in mind that we're writing for the boundaries of a mainstream audience, but still for a mainstream audience. So I would say maybe the one stunt we've done this year that was a real love it or hate it moment was the episode where you sort of swapped, where there was this dinosaur from Brian's subconscious and you kind of swapped words in. I think that was maybe too. I think for us that was I think maybe we found the line as far as how crazy is too crazy right there. Yeah, even though I like the episode, but when I watched it, I was like, this is not real. This is niche writing, not mainstream writing. Yeah.